Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Bhava Girivaradhari Gopijana Bhava Girivaradhari Yashodhana Bhajananta Yashodhana Bhajananta Jamuna Tiva Vajari Jamuna Tiva Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Padkarman Spayachakshaya Sadashi Shimad Bhakti-Vedanta Śrīla Prabhupada ki Jai. Our glories to the Assam devotees. Our glories to the Assam devotees. Glories to the Assam devotees. Glories to Shri Guru and Guru. A reading from Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 9, verse 28. Śubhāśubha-phalair evam. Mokṣyase karma-bandhanaiḥ. Sannyāsa-yoga-yuktātmā. Vimukto upaiṣyasi. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. In this way, you will be free from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. Purport. One who acts in Krishna consciousness under superior direction is called yukta. The technical term is yukta-vairāgya. This is further explained by Rūpa Gosvāmī as follows. Anasaktasya vishayan yathārham upaiṣyasi nirvana Kṛṣṇa sambandhe yukta-vairāgya mokṣyase Bhakti Sindhu 1.2255. Rūpa Gosvāmī says that as long as we are in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Kṛṣṇa, then that is called yukta-vairāgya. Actually situated in renunciation, such activities clear the mirror of the mind, and as the actor gradually makes progress in spiritual realization, he becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, at the end he becomes liberated, and this liberation is also specified. By this liberation, he does not become one with the Brahma-jyoti, but rather enters into the planet of the Supreme Lord. It is clearly mentioned here, evaṁ upaiṣyasi, he comes to me, back home, back to Godhead. There are 5 different stages of liberation, and here it is specified that the devotee who always lived his lifetime here under the direction of the Supreme Lord, as stated, has evolved to the point where he can, after quitting his body, go back to Godhead and engage directly in association of the Supreme Lord. Anyone who has no interest but to dedicate his life to the service of the Lord is actually a sannyāsi. Such a person always thinks of himself as an eternal servant, dependent on the supreme will of the Lord. As such, whatever he does for the benefit of the Lord. Whatever action he performs it as service to the Lord. He does not give serious attention to the fruitive activities or prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. For ordinary persons, it is obligatory to execute prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. But although a pure devotee who is completely engaged in service to the Lord may sometimes appear to go against prescribed Vedic duties, actually it is not so. It is said, therefore, by Vaishnava authorities that even the most intelligent person cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. The exact words are Tar Bhakti Kriya Mudra Bigeha Na Pujai. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 23:39. A person who is thus always engaged in service of the Lord is always thinking and planning how to serve the Lord, is to be considered completely liberated at present, and in the future his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. He is above all materialistic criticism, just as Kṛṣṇa is above all criticism. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuritam Yena Tassamai Shri Gurave Namah. So here in the Purport, Sri Prabhupada is saying that for ordinary persons, you must follow the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. But A pure devotee who is completely engaged in service of the Lord may sometimes appear to go against the prescribed Vedic duties. Actually, it is not so. So Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, he changed so many things. It looked like, whoa, he's going against the Vedic duty. He's a sannyasi, but he's performing marriage ceremonies. Because the boys and girls were not getting married, they were just living together like that, and still it's happening in the West like that. Not so much in India. I think the marriages are still happening here, but in America, the marriages were not happening. So Prabhupada, he said, no, I have to do these marriages, otherwise they won't have a proper social life. And not only that, he made brahmacharini ashram. And that was also not before, that's something new. So he trained up the ladies as well as the men in preaching. So in the purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada says that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to invent a way to capture the Mayavadis and others who do not take interest in the Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement. Acharya comes for the service of the Lord. He cannot be expected to conform to a stereotype. He must find the ways and means by which Kṛṣṇa consciousness can be spread. So yes, when we first came to India, then we were criticized. Prabhupada was criticized by the caste Goswāmis that, why you're giving sannyas to mlechas, why you're why you're making ladies ashram. And he was criticized for so many things. But Srila Prabhupada said that both the boys and girls are being trained to become preachers. So Prabhupada saw that everybody could do, the women could do, the men could do. Everybody is a spirit soul, they can be engaged in devotional service to Kṛṣṇa. In India, when Prabhupada was here, all the pujaris were ladies. I was the head pujari in Calcutta Temple, Radha Govinda, and there were other ladies everywhere except Mayapur was the exception. Jananivas was there, but all the other temples it was ladies. And so Prabhupada, he did something new. He engaged everyone because the higher principle is to engage everyone in devotional service. He sent 3 married couples to England, to London, to start the movement. And within a year, they were very famous already. And it said the chanting Hare Krishna startles London. There was a headline in the paper. Whereas Śrī Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati sent some sannyasis, and they were not successful like this. They came back defeated. But the Grihastha couples, they made a relationship with George Harrison and the Beatles, and then they became famous all over the world with the Hare, made Hare Krishna Mahamantra famous all over the world. So Srila Prabhupada said that in India, all the acharyas and their descendants acted only from the man's side. The wives were at home. But in Gita, we find women are also equally competent like the man in matter of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So that's the verse that's coming up. Shriyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras Te Piyanti Param Gatim. Women, Shudras, Vaishyas, everyone can come back to home, back to Godhead. So there is no bar for anyone in the matter of preaching. So he asked us to be an example of how to preach Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Requires surrender. Bhagavad-Gita is all about surrender, from the beginning to the end. Although it doesn't, the verse, surrender to me, doesn't come till the end of Bhagavad-Gita, Prabhupada emphasizes it throughout the whole Gita. Surrender to me, surrender to me. So, and in this purport also, situated in renunciation, activities clear the mirror of the mind, and the actor makes progress in spiritual realization, becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are 6 symptoms of surrender. First, you accept everything favorable for devotional service, and you reject everything unfavorable. Then, thirdly, be confident Krishna will protect you, from all difficulties. And fourth, Krishna will maintain you. Don't worry. And fifth, you should consider yourself helpless and consider Krishna the only basis for your progress in life. Your desire becomes one with Krishna. And lastly, humility. Humility. So what should we accept? What things will help us in our Krishna consciousness? It will help us to go to the temple for kirtan, for classes, and it may distract us to go on our cell phone the whole day. That could be a distraction, or if you have all deities on your Facebook page, then it could be okay. Depends what you're looking for on the internet. We can use it wisely or we can use it badly. And it's very easy to use it badly. So yes, what to accept, what to reject, and protection. Protection is very important. Srila Prabhupada talks about protection, how a sannyasi should feel. And here in his purport, he said, it's not a matter of changing the dress, it's a matter of consciousness. Everything for Krishna. Like we're hearing in Bhagavatam classes these days, how the gopis were thinking everything for Krishna. So they are the highest sannyasis. One must be convinced that Krishna, he's in my heart. I'm never alone. I'm not alone. He's with me. So Prabhupada gives the thought that even if I live in the darkest region of the forest, I will not be alone. Krishna is with me. He'll give me all protection. And this is fearlessness. And that's what one reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, what is the symptom of a liberated soul? And Srila Prabhupada said, he is fearless. Liberated soul is so you'll know if you're liberated if you're fearless. But not fearless in a silly way, in a stupid way, that you take risks for no reason. Take risks for Krishna, that's okay. You can do that. And so, Ravana, he was not a devotee of Krishna, he was a devotee of Lord Shiva. He was praying for protection from Lord Shiva, and the Shivaratri is coming up. So a lot of people will be worshipping Lord Shiva on his appearance day. And so Ravana was praying to Lord Shiva, please come and save me from this danger, when he kidnapped Ram's wife. And Parvati said, why aren't you going? Why aren't you going to help you? He helped you, he worshipped you so nicely, and he's asking your help. So Lord Shiva said, my dear Parvati, what can I do? I cannot give him protection. Why should I go? Rama is there. I cannot do anything against Rama. So, Krishna Rake, Krishna Mareke, Mare Krishna Rakeke. If Krishna wants to protect someone, no one can kill him. If Krishna wants to kill someone, no one can protect him. I was just seeing in Turkey there was this very big earthquake, and after 5 days they found a whole family alive underneath the rubble. One was a 2-month-old baby, mother, father, and son and daughter, and one little baby, and they were all alive. How is it possible? How is it Krishna wanted to save them? And when they took them out, then everyone was cheering, God is great, God is great. They understood. It's a miracle, only by it's God's miracle that we are breathing and living today. If we didn't have Krishna helping us, protecting us, we would not be here today. We would just be finished. So Krishna is giving protection, but not as much as he wants to give us. He wants to give us full protection, but we don't accept it. We think, no, I can manage. Either you think, well, I have my intelligence, I have my bank balance, or I have my friends, or I have my family. They will certainly help me. So we think, we don't surrender to, we don't think Krishna, we don't trust Krishna. Yeah, Krishna will protect me. But he will protect us. Of course, in the end of Gita, he says, surrender to me, I will protect you from all material sinful reactions. Another translation Prabhupada gives, give up your own manufactured, concocted means of protection. Just surrender to me and I will protect you. So when does the protection start? Prabhupada, in a purport about the story of Maharaj Ambarish, he drank some water before he fed Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni got angry. He created a demon from a hair on his head. The demon came to destroy Ambarish, and he was just saying, okay, Lord, if you want to protect me. He wasn't disturbed. And the Lord protected him. The Sudasan just came and killed the demon and started chasing Durvasa also. And Durvasa had to run for his life. So you may think, well, I'm not such a pure devotee like Ambarish Maharaj, so maybe I'm not protected, and I'm not sure. Srila Prabhupada says, right from the beginning of your devotional service, you are immediately protected. Srila Prabhupada said in the purport to that story, this protection is offered from the very beginning of your devotional service, immediately. As soon as you come to a class, you chant Hare Krishna, you eat prasad, you got protection from Kṛṣṇa. So isn't that wonderful? So what about maintenance? How about, that's a problem of life. We have to maintain ourselves. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's the incarnation of Kṛṣṇa. And one of his associates, Srivas Thakur, he had a big, huge family. And Lord Chaitanya questioned him, I see you don't go out for work, you don't do anything. How will you make ends meet in your family? How are you doing it? And Shiva said, oh, I don't have the heart to go anywhere. And Lord Chaitanya said, you have such a big family to maintain. How will you look after it? And Shiva said, whatever comes every day as destiny will give us, that we can accept. We'll manage with whatever comes. So then Lord Chaitanya said, with that mentality, you should take sannyasa. You don't go begging, you don't have a job, you don't work. So better you take sannyasa. And so Shiva said, no, I cannot. That is not entering my mind. So then he said to Lord Chaitanya, here is my explanation. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. What's this 1, 2, 3? What does that mean? How you're going to maintain yourself? Shiva said, I've taken a solemn vow. If I do not get food after fasting for 3 days, I don't get food, then I will tie a stone around my neck and jump in the Ganga and drown myself. And Lord Chaitanya said, you don't have to worry at all. Maybe Lakshmi will have to go begging one day for money, but you will never have to worry about food. So Lord Chaitanya gave that promise to him. And not only that, Lord Chaitanya said, if someone simply remembers my devotee, I take the responsibility for maintaining him. So even if we just remember Srila Prabhupada, then Kṛṣṇa will take care of us. That's our hope. That's our hope. Just remember Srila Prabhupada, remember the great devotees, the saintly devotees, the acharyas, and Kṛṣṇa promises, Kṛṣṇa will maintain you. Do not worry. Do not worry. And so humility, surrender, these are also different forms of sharanagati or surrender. So Kṛṣṇa is asking us all to surrender. It may be simple, but mentally we may think, oh, but I have so many responsibilities. How can I surrender to Kṛṣṇa? No. And Maya tells us, no, don't surrender. No, you'll be out of my clutches. Stay with me and I will kick you some more. No, we need to surrender to Kṛṣṇa. We cannot avoid it. Even if you don't surrender to Kṛṣṇa, you will surrender to your wife, you will surrender to your family, and if you don't have a wife or a family, you'll surrender to your dog, Prabhupada said. People have dogs, maybe not so much in India, but in the West, everybody has dogs. It makes them feel good because they don't have children, they get a dog. So you must surrender. Just like Akbar, when Akbar was here 500 years ago, he had a minister named Birbal. So one day, Birbal came late to the court. And Akbar said, "Why are you late?" And Birbal said, "Oh, my wife, she had me, I had to do something for my wife, I had to listen to her." And Akbar, the emperor, said, "You listen to your wife?" And he said, "Yes, everybody listens to their wife." And so Akbar said, "Okay, prove it." So they called all the men of the city, big courtyard in the middle of the city, to the big meeting place. And Birbal said to them, "Okay, now whoever listens to your wife, you should go over to this side. Stampede." Everyone went to that side except one man. So the emperor said, "Oh, you are very courageous. Why didn't you go with the other men to that side?" So the man said, "My wife told me to avoid crowds." There you go. Everyone listens to their wife. So this was 500 years ago, Akbar and Birbal. We must surrender. We can't avoid surrender. Of course, Gita says, "Bahunam jamanam ante gyanavan mam prabhadyate." After many births and deaths, the jnani, intelligent person, will surrender to me, and he becomes a Mahatma. Such a Mahatma is very rare. And so, yes, in the West, they think, why should I serve God? I will serve dog. If you don't serve God, you have to serve dog, Prabhupada said. And so Prabhupada translated the verse, "Sarvadharman pritaja mamikam sharanam vraja." You rascal, give up all your nonsense and surrender to me. Or another translation, "My dear sons, why are you rotting in this miserable world? Come to me, I'll give you all protection." So yes, surrender. Surrender is very, very important. If you surrender to Kṛṣṇa, you will get protection from fall down. Just like we see in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, some great devotees fell down. Maharaj Bharat fell down, became a deer, but he didn't forget. He didn't forget his Kṛṣṇa consciousness, even in the body of a deer. Chitraketu made an offense to Lord Shiva, and he was cursed by Parvati to become a demon. But even in the body of a demon, his mind was mind of a devotee. So he was chanting beautiful prayers before he died, and he didn't lose his prema, he didn't lose his bhava. So if you will be protected from falling down if you surrender to Kṛṣṇa. You'll also be protected from Maya, because later on in a few verses after this, Kantiya patijanihi name bhakti pranashyati. Arjuna, please declare it boldly, my devotee shall never perish. So how to get that protection? Srila Prabhupada said, we must chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Also, we will get protection from anarthas, the bad qualities. All good qualities will come if you surrender to Kṛṣṇa. So sometimes we see when we chant japa in the morning, all these bad qualities come in front of us. One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, why it seems like I had more good qualities before I became devotee, and now I see so many bad qualities. And so Srila Prabhupada said, well, just imagine if you have a house and you don't clean that house for many years. When you start cleaning, what's going to happen? The dust is going to fly. So we have our consciousness for millions of births, it hasn't been cleaned out. When we start chanting, then the cleaning starts and the dust begins to fly. And we find, oh, I didn't know I have desires like that. Don't go after them. It's not your desire, it's coming from previous births. Just let them go. Let them go. Like the verse in the second chapter the sage, he's completely peaceful because these desires are coming like rivers flowing into the ocean, and he's not disturbed. He just lets them go. Okay, gone, finished. It's all going away. So we will be protected from our sinful desires also. Karma beach. And we'll be protected from death also. All sources of fear. Everyone is sure to die, but because this is a feature of Kṛṣṇa, mrityu sarvaharascha, I am death. But when you become a devotee, you're not destined to die according to a limited duration of life. Everyone has a limited duration of life, but a devotee's lifetime can be extended by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Karmani niyodhatikintu chabhakti-bhajam, that, everyone has their karma coming from Indra down to the ant, but a devotee is not under the laws of karma. If you surrender to Kṛṣṇa, then you're beyond the laws of karma. So that's wonderful. That's really nice. Parikshit Maharaj, who was the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam, he, at the end of his life, he said to the great sages, please accept me as completely surrendered soul, for I have taken the lotus feet of the Lord into my heart. So he was not afraid of death. He was not afraid. And what was his last wish as a dying person? I request you, Brahmanas, I offer you obeisances. I pray, if I should take birth again in this material world, I have complete attachment to Kṛṣṇa, association with his devotees, and friendly relation with all living beings. So what does that mean? Why is he desiring that? Because that's the mentality of a preacher. Amadhyam Adhikari. He loves Kṛṣṇa, and he associates with the friendship with devotees, and he tries to elevate those who are less fortunate than himself. So if we take protection of Kṛṣṇa, then we will go back to Godhead. There was, in 1968, Srila Prabhupada was in, maybe it was 69, he was in Ohio, and he was preaching at the University of Ohio. And he was preaching with Allen Ginsberg, who was a famous poet in the hippie days, in the 60s and 70s in America. He was famous. And he was meeting with him. He was telling Allen Ginsberg, oh, Kali Yuga, so bad. It's going to get really bad. There will be no trees. There will be no fruits, no flowers. All animals will eat human beings, and people will eat people also. And fruits will just be big seeds surrounded by skin, nothing inside. And so there will be nothing to eat, and the devotees, few devotees will be there, they will live in the caves. So Alan asked, your disciples, they will live in the caves? And Prabhupada said, no, my disciples will have gone back to Godhead by that time. And Allen Ginsberg said, oh, really? Srila Prabhupada said, yes, they are very advanced. They are going to go very shortly. They are chanting. They are taking part in this process. They are becoming pure devotees in this lifetime. Allen Ginsberg said, yes, and what will happen to the rest of us? So Srila Prabhupada leaned over to Alan. Alan leaned to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, Alan, at the end of Kali Yuga, I will eat you and you will eat me. So don't stick around. Finish in this life and go back to Godhead, and don't come back again here. So Srila Prabhupada said that we should try to do devotional service with devotion, with bhakti. He said, that's why I came here to the West. Srimati Maharaji told me, don't go, you will die. And Prabhupada said, never mind, death may come. Nobody did it, so let me try. So activity, we need to do activity. We need to do active devotional service. And that is a symptom of love. Activity must be there. And it doesn't matter your age, young or old, you can perform devotional service to Kṛṣṇa. And so that is a real life, and we are trying to do this life for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. So Kṛṣṇa will protect us, He will maintain us, and this is surrender. We must have that faith. No, Kṛṣṇa is powerful. He kills so many demons. We read Kṛṣṇa book and you can see that He will protect us. So I'd like to share with you one prayer from His Holiness Sacinandana Swami. There is a simple solution to one's difficulties. Turn to the Lord and say, "My Lord, I cannot solve this alone. It is beyond my capabilities, my intelligence, my plans, my ideas. I sincerely request you to accept me as your surrendered soul and protect and maintain me." So protect me means keep me in a situation where I can function and the problems of my material existence don't upset my life that much. So that's a good definition of protection. And maintain me means maintain me on the spiritual platform. Because that's the thing we don't want to lose. We don't want to lose our spiritual advancement. And you won't lose it. But it's possible to stop it if you commit offenses to other devotees. So therefore, we have to be very careful not to commit offenses to chanting the holy name and to Vaishnavas also. So I'll stop here. If there's any questions, comments, you can ask at this point. Yes?
This is the last second paragraph. Anyone who has no interest but to dedicate his life to the service of the Lord is actually sannyāsa.
No interest but to dedicate. No interest but to dedicate means only interest. Because there's a negative, two negatives. No interest but to dedicate his life to service of the Lord. No other interest except devotional service. Yeah, that's what it means here. It's a little, it's tricky if you don't know English. Because 2 times no means yes. So there's 2 no's here. Anyone who has no interest, but, so that's another no, but to dedicate. So he has only interest is to dedicate his self. No other interest. That's what it means, no other. If you have put the word other, then you can understand better. No other interest than to dedicate himself to service of the Lord. Any other questions? Over here, or comment?
Thank you for the class, sorry. And you talked about protection, maintenance. I'm just thinking a little bit about when we're in our work and occupation and material world at home in the UK. When we're sort of propelled by the laws of nature in daily work, how does the maintenance of the protection kind of exist there? How can we take that assurance that Kṛṣṇa will maintain that protection but whilst feeling very propelled by the laws of nature?
So you feel like, your question is, the modes of nature are there, how can you feel the protection and maintenance?
How can we be sure that we will have that maintenance, I guess?
How can we be sure we'll have the maintenance? Yes, well, if you're completely in the modes of material nature, it will be more difficult for you to see how maintenance is coming. Because the devotees, they are grateful and they say, oh, Kṛṣṇa is giving me a place to stay, is giving me food to eat, he's giving me enough that I can maintain. But the non-devotees think, oh, it is only by my own endeavor that I am maintaining. So they keep God out of the picture, they keep Kṛṣṇa out of the picture, so they cannot see. But if you are grateful, that will help you to see how he is protecting and maintaining you. Be grateful for everything that you have because it can be taken away at any moment. You have your eyes, you can see. I just was reading in the news that one lady in Bangalore, she was using her cell phone in the dark and she lost her eyesight. Very recent thing happened. She was just, very simple thing. I'm sure a lot of people do that. But when she did it, she went blind. So we have a lot to be thankful for. My friend Mahadevi is in Jagannath Puri. She has a problem with one foot. It's a little painful. She had a bad fall a year ago and is still having a problem with her foot. She said, but then I saw another person with only one foot, and I saw another person with no feet. So I thought, okay, Kṛṣṇa is very kind to me. He's giving me my 2 feet. And so, we need to be grateful for the good and for the difficulties also. Be grateful. Any other questions? No. Jai, all glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.